Well, howdy folks. I want to welcome everybody back to the channel where it's all about racing. I'm Mark. And for those of you that are new, I thank you for tuning in. For those of you who are my loyal subscribers, I appreciate your watching. Hope you enjoy this video. This one, as you can see, is going to focus on a 2021 McLaren MCL35M, that driven by Lando Norris, made by Spark in 1/43 scale. Now, as mentioned, this is made by Spark, and you can tell by the packaging. The model is made of resin. It comes on a painted wooden base. In this case, it is gray, which I think looks rather good with this livery, which we're going to talk about. Comes with acrylic jewel cover, open-ended sides, both front and rear, so you can view this car from either side. The back of it features McLaren. It's not spectacular. Top of it, notes 2021, as you can see as I turn this thing around. So it's really easy to identify what year each car is, as they're not easily identified because they all look so similar. Now this model, the MCL35M, is a 2021 Formula One designed by James Key and constructed by McLaren. This car was originally supposed to debut in 2020, but was heavily disrupted by COVID-19, and thus this is the upgraded M version for the 2021 season. Now, one huge change for McLaren in 2021 was no longer using a Renault engine, but a Mercedes-AMG F1 M12E, a 1.6-liter direct injection V6. Now, the MCL35M also features a kinetic and thermal energy recovery system, which we'll talk about in a moment. The transmission is a McLaren 8-speed, sequential, seamless, semi-automatic, and a multi-plate limited slip clutch by AP Racing. Now, the battery in this thing is a Mercedes lithium-ion, probably did more harm to the environment creating it than it's ever going to do by racing it. The brakes, I thought, which were really interesting, are AK Bono. I've never heard of it. That's AKEBONO, and they are carbon discs and pads. Now, this incredibly cool livery that you're looking at was introduced at the season-ending 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and was by artist Rabab Tantawy. That's Tantawy. Now, I thought this thing was orange and blue, but my eyes deceive me, and I'm wrong. It's papaya and blue. And this particular combination represents diversity. Okay, we've had enough of that, I think. But most interesting was that this was the first McLaren to be wrapped rather than painted. Now, this car competed in 39 races. It scored only one win, but it was its first since 2012 and had 7 podiums. Now, for those of you that have seen my video on Is Formula One Worth Collecting, this was the 4th car that I received in Formula One out of maybe 20 that I've bought over the past couple months that became severely damaged. Front wing was gone, and this is really common, whether it's 1/43 scale or 1/18. They even put a rubber or a foam insert underneath it. I don't think it helps. And you can see if I just touch it, there's a little bit of movement there. The suspension on these things are really fragile and very, very well done. I mean, Spark does a great job. Their cars are so cool, and they are truly created by artisans. And I want to give the Chinese that make these cars credit if I haven't done it already, because these models are beautiful. They are very, very fragile, as I have pointed out. And it's a price that you pay for detail and, for finesse. Look at the thin pitot tube that you have on here. You can see the other arrow that was supposed to be here. I have not been able to replace. That thing is so full of glue, I wouldn't even be able to crack a hole in it. Second aerial was here, and it was literally ripped in half. The rear wing was gone. The suspension was broken. There are pieces I have that I've not been able to replace. So complex is the design. Also, this camera hub on top of the air intake for the engine nacelle, that was broken as well. I did find that, thank God. But other than that, it's a really cool model. And as you can see, despite a lot of painstaking work, I did manage to put it back together. The seller of this packaged it as best he could. I think it just got tossed around, and he was kind enough to refund my purchase, which was really nice. Now, guys, if we turn this car around, we take a look at the cabin. The helmets of the drivers, I think, are really the highlights of these cars. It's very, very cool. Cabin detail is not that spectacular. The steering wheel, is good, but not the best that I've seen. I do like the carbon fiber trim detail on the mirrors and all around it. This papaya and blue, I think, looks really, really cool. And if you look at the detail and the intricate work of the barge board going from the front all the way down to the rear, it is very complex. This was mentioned in the article I read about this car, as was the rear diffuser, which doesn't look that spectacular to me, but apparently other teams complained about it. I think everybody does that. The rear of this car looks really, really spectacular with all that carbon fiber. McLaren Artura, look at the exhaust. I mean, guys, that's a lot of work. I mean, this stuff is really tough to put together. Now, this rear wheel, if you take a look at my right-hand side, looking down here, you can see where it's not as cleanly attached as it is on the left. That's because it was broken. Also notice the support rod that you see, I believe if I pull my little thing up here right there, that is not in the place where it should be, but it was the best I could do. This was the expense of keeping the thing together, which all in all, I think looks okay. But, and just the hazards of buying Formula One models. Now, we could go on and on about all the cool stuff on this car, and I won't. You can see it. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. I think this is one of the cooler liveries on a car that I've seen, even if it has to represent diversity. I'm just so sick of that. I really don't want to hear about that anymore. Enough is enough. Anyhow, thanks for watching. See you next time.